Hi, this is Jason, and welcome back to Red Pill Finance TV. In this episode, I want to talk about whether it is too late to buy Bitcoin. So, without beating around the bush, the answer is no. And I just want to paint a little context. So, when I got into Bitcoin, it was in the middle of 2017, so the year of the bull run, where it went all the way to 20,000. So my first purchase was when Bitcoin was at $4,000. Now you may think $4,000 is massively small amount versus what it is today, which is nearly $60,000 in March 2021. However, in terms of the context, when I bought it at $4,000, that year to date, Bitcoin had already gone up 300%. Now compare that with this year, where we are in March 2021, and the Bitcoin price has only gone up 100% year to date, and we're only in the first quarter of the year. My belief is that Bitcoin runs in 4-year cycles, so every 4 years there is a period of a bull run, and this suggests that for the rest of the year, the anticipation is for the crypto market to hot up and have a run, more of a run than it already has. So what is different? I mean, in 2017, a 300% increase is a lot, but back then there was more uncertainty about Bitcoin. A lot of it was just mania and retail and FOMOing and not as much serious money. However, it has developed across the years and there's been more regulation, there's been more serious money going into it. But the point is, it is still early days now, but the credibility has increased over the last 4 years for Bitcoin. So, for instance, I can give an example. I'll speak to some of my investment bank friends, and what's surprising is a lot of them don't actually properly know and understand Bitcoin, which is quite surprising to me because I thought naturally it would be something you would look into because you work in financial banking industry. So that first of all goes to show that it's still early days and a lot of people, wider public, still don't really get Bitcoin yet. They're still very skeptical. Secondly, on the topic of investment banks, today there was news that Morgan Stanley is the first major bank to offer Bitcoin exposure to high net worth individuals. Now, in that kind of environment, when because of the competition, when one bank introduces something that makes money and is popular and there's demand for it, it means it's very likely that other banks will follow suit. And similarly, extending to companies, we've seen several institutions, companies use Bitcoin, buy into Bitcoin, put Bitcoin on their balance sheet or offer Bitcoin services. So for instance, MicroStrategy and Tesla, we know that they put a large amount of cash reserves into Bitcoin as a kind of a hedge against inflation and more. We've seen PayPal offer crypto services to their US customers. There's Square, there's Mass Mutual. So as we can see, from the last 1 year, there's been more and more serious money going into Bitcoin, which goes back to the earlier point that when I got into Bitcoin, even though the price was low and it had already gone 300%, there's a lot more to gain still. Comparing it to this year, 2021, there's been a lot more credibility. There's only been a 100% increase year to date, and as these kind of first movers, i.e. investment banks offering exposure to Bitcoin and publicly traded and privately traded companies start putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, as well as the development of ETFs to allow additional exposure. All of this adds to even more potential, and 100% year to date is just a start, I believe. I believe there's a lot more of a bull run to come. And therefore, you always look back, you always look, oh, it's gone up this much, but what matters is how much potential it has to go up in the future. And quite often, with such new innovation, there's often skepticism. And there's this concept called paralysis by analysis, where we think about things so much, we ponder about it, and then we end up backing ourselves out of it and not taking action, essentially. And then we feel like the action we could have taken would have resulted in this amount of benefit and gain, and therefore we get into it. And by that time, um, you're getting on to the latter end of things, and then that's that's the issue. The best moment is the now, because the past is just, you can't change. The future is just expectations, and your real control is the current moment as it is. Of course, do your own due diligence, do your own research into it, and really understand it and believe in it, because by believing in it, you're not getting into the mania or retail FOMO, or you just you believe in the fundamentals if you truly researched it and understand and trust in the asset, and therefore you won't be easily shaken out when there are rough patches. So very important to do your own research and to educate. But in the wider perspective of things, we always look back and how far things have gone up, and then we think, it's a tipping point. But at the same time, as discussed, it is still very early days. The wider public still don't really get Bitcoin. There's still a lot of potential. There's still a lot more adoption, and a lot of it is as well happening behind the scenes that we don't know of. For instance, it could be Visa or MasterCard working on crypto related offerings. So a very, very interesting space to keep an eye on, and very looking forward to how this develops, and how Bitcoin can be more mainstream. So thank you for listening to this podcast, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon.